MC Lego Boy asks, will we be getting another Q&A video? Welcome to the Q&A series. You guys ask questions in the comments below or over on my Discord server, and I answer them. It's as simple as that. The very first question is by Goobread16, and they ask, will Hero Factory return? I think if we're looking at will Bionicle return versus will Hero Factory return, I would say of the two, Hero Factory is probably more likely to come back. This is all pure speculation from Mr. Ben Cossey. None of this is confirmed, there's no rumors about this or whatever. This is just what I think. The reason I say that, they already tried with Bionicle once and it didn't work. I could imagine that in board meetings and stuff, Lego would be like, well, there's not really a strong argument for it. Whereas with Hero Factory, we haven't had a Hero Factory 2. Maybe that's possible, you know? Another thing that I think helps Hero Factory is, you know, when you look at Bionicle as a theme, it's very engrossed with a bunch of lore. And that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I could understand being a new person looking to get into Bionicle, that could be a little like overwhelming. And so maybe the lore actually kind of weighs down the theme a little bit. Whereas with Hero Factory, it's a theme that's so open-ended. It can be whatever it wants. To a degree, it's quite similar to Ninjago. That's a theme that gets essentially reinvented all the time. You have Ninjago sets that are about like sky pirates, you have them fighting snakes, you have them fighting skeletons, there's like cyberpunk sets. Ninjago can be so many things, and I think Hero Factory is a theme that can also be whatever it wants. If it did come back, they could take it in any direction, which I think that fluidity and that sort of like flexibility with a theme probably makes it more likely that Lego would be like, you know what, that's enticing, we could bring it back. Because look at an old theme like Exoforce, for example. The whole concept of that theme was humans in mech suits versus robots in mech suits. And I get the sense by the third wave of those sets, the concept was already getting a little bit old. I loved it. I'm not saying it was bad, I think it was great, but I could understand that maybe people are like, oh, it's the same thing again, you know? And so maybe there's an argument to be made there that Exoforce was discontinued because it wasn't feeling fresh and different with its newer themes, it was just getting a little bit stale. And when we look at like every wave of Hero Factory, each one felt drastically new and exciting and fun and refreshing. So just the DNA of the theme, I think, really lends itself to being reinvented and brought back. Potentially. But of course, as I've said before and I'll say it again, the biggest issue is the molds. You look at a set like Hero Factory 2.0, let's point out all the new molds. We've done this before, but we're doing it again. 1 new mold, 2 new mold, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, did I count? I guess I counted that, 11. At least 10 new molds. And bear in mind, the cost of 1 new mold is, I think, $500,000, or that's not true, $250,000. Still a lot of money, and it varies depending on stuff. And, you know, most new themes try not to introduce too many new molds because it's expensive to get the designer to make the mold. It has to go through like product testing and stuff. They have to make the piece. There's a lot of cost involved in making new pieces. And when they brought in the CCBS system, there were so many new pieces that were introduced. So to bring back Hero Factory and bring back all those molds would be incredibly expensive. That's not to say they wouldn't do it, but you can understand from like a business point of view that we say, oh, okay, we're gonna bring back Hero Factory. We're looking at like $7 billion worth of new molds that we have to make. That's a random number I threw out. You could understand that they might be like, well, that's a lot, but if we brought back this other Lego theme, it would be a quarter of that cost. So logistically, unfortunately, I don't know if it's gonna happen. But you know how this sort of thing goes. If there's demand for it, if people are excited for it, if there's enough reason that Lego thinks it will be successful and they'll make their money back, then of course they're gonna do it. Does it mean we'd get system Hero Factory sets? Maybe. Maybe it could be something similar to Invasion from Below, which I'm pointing to my shelf, but the Invasion from Below sets are on the top shelf, you can't see them there. Still, I think it's very likely. I think there's a lot in the DNA that makes good sense that it could return, but there's a lot that makes sense that it wouldn't. Still, it's interesting to think about, and I don't know, what would I want out of Hero Factory if it did return? I would want to return to the classics, to be honest. I'd love them to come up with some brand new system that's like CCBS that could exist in other themes and other sets outside of a construction context. That way it could make a little more sense to bring some of those molds back. I don't know. I would like to see Heroes in Space. That could be cool. Or just a return to the classics, just a reinvigorated Hero Factory 1.0, that kind of thing, you know? There's a lot of potential. Kate Tastic asks about the modern construction superhero sets, specifically like these ones. They ask, do you think that those scratch the same itch that Bionicle does? No, I would say. For me, I think a big reason is that I miss original, unique IPs. Getting a figure of a Marvel character is cool because I like Marvel. I happily collect a lot of those sets. But to me, it's more exciting to get brand new random dude that you can, have fun playing with, who's its own person. It's not attached to another intellectual property, that kind of thing. I also think there was something so exciting about new Bionicle sets because they'd come with new pieces. And often those superhero Marvel sets do come with new pieces, but they're not super exciting comparatively. So in that sense, I don't think they scratch the same itch. That being said, I do like those sets. The new Captain America set that's coming out, I really want that. The wings look super cool, a lot of the dark blue looks quite nice. It's a good parts pack, it's a really nice figure. As far as those sets go, that's one of the best ones they've made. But also I feel like some of those figures can sometimes feel a little bit repetitive. The designs are fairly similar a lot of the time with only a little bit of innovation going on. I really want to see them change things up a little bit or try new stuff, really innovate, And I feel like the Captain America set is a good step in that direction, which is cool. So no, they don't scratch the same itch, but that doesn't mean that they're bad sets. I quite like them. Youngin asks, what's your favorite Bionicle set in your collection? That's really tough. I'm actually currently going through the process of, I'm looking at them on the shelf right now, of rebuilding all of the Bionicle sets I ever owned and trying to get a full, complete collection. You probably notice some of these shelves are growing across the Q&A videos, and there's some stuff up on these shelves now and stuff like that. It's very fresh on my mind. I would say the Master Builder set though, because it's quite rare. The concept is so fun, building all these different Rahi in the one set. They're just really charming builds. I quite like them. But otherwise, maybe Gali Mata. She was my very first Bionicle set. It just felt really cool rebuilding her recently and being like, oh man, I remember good memories with this. So yeah, probably my very first Bionicle set, which was Gali. Mark of Falworth asks, what's your Holy Grail or White Whale set? Something you've always wanted. It used to be the old fantasy era castle giant chess set, but I actually got that for Christmas this year with the box and everything. It's beautiful. So I would have said that originally, but this is tough. I'm always looking for / excited by the idea of finding prototypes or misprinted pieces, or even like a prototype set or something, if that even exists these days. So whether it's Bionicle or system, that would be something I'd be very hungry for. I don't know, but Mark asked about sets, not parts. So a wooden duck would be cool. Again, that kind of feels like cheating because it's a wooden set, not like a modern day set kind of thing. So I would say the employee gift or the inside tour version of Ole Kirk's house, because I've been to the real house, it's beautiful. I'd love to own the actual physical set of that because I love LEGO history. I love a lot of those different style of sets like that. I love inside tour sets. So something like that, I would say, is very, very high on my list. And, I would love to own that. I'm a Halo Guy says, what is your favorite part of the Bionicle story and what was the best twist or kind of moment in the story for you? Weirdly enough, I'm going to say Barra Magna, the 2009 era of Bionicle. The reason I say that is I remember being quite skeptical about that at first, and then I read up a lot about it and I just kind of fell in love with it. All the different tribes, the vast history of that world, and the fact that we were getting quite close to the end of the story. It all just felt so exciting and so new, but still within the vein of original Bionicle. So I don't know, that was really exciting for me, but I gotta also go with just the original first year of Bionicle. There was just so much mystery to that world, and all of the art was so beautiful. It just captivated me in such a fun way. And it felt a lot more sort of simplistic and charming at the time, I think. So yeah, probably the first year would be my definitive answer, but I also really love 2009. And of course, the whole giant robot being the island twist. I mean, I've kind of spoiled it, but I also haven't. I'll leave that blank in case you don't know the details of that. Easily the best twist. The Yeet asks, what's your favorite memory within the Bionicle fandom? That's tough. I have very fond memories of this year's Brick Fair. It was really fun. If you count that as being a part of the Bionicle fandom, I guess it is. Specific memories I really enjoyed was the yard sale at Brick Fair, where everyone who's there comes out and starts selling stuff. I remember the first yard sale walking around and looking at all the stuff with Cody Avery, and then the second yard sale walking around with my friend Brandon Builds. And there was just something really exciting about that. You know, these people that I really look up to as builders and just are really nice people, just actually physically being in the same room as them instead of talking to them online or seeing their mocks online. There's just something quite magical about that. And, you know, I also like hunting for Lego and rare stuff and all that. And the yard sale's really exciting. So it was just, I don't know, there's something very peaceful and nice about that. Sometimes it's the little things, like just spending time with friends, which is really cool. But also the time that G2 leaks were starting to come out and everyone was freaking out, being like, wait, is Bionicle actually coming back? That was very exciting too. Benjamin Smith 2367, they ask, what inspires you? Well, actually recently, Loaf Builds, some of his mocks really inspired me, specifically this one, Bruiser. I saw it at Brick Fair, I've also been looking at it a lot online, and yeah, stuff like the use of these like shock absorber piston pieces embedded into the arm. I looked at that and I thought, oh man, I'd love to actually be able to do something similar with those pieces, because I have a few in my collection. And actually I am building a mock right now that's on my desk right in front of me there. I'm not going to show it to you yet because spoilers and get you excited for it. It's got a torso, it's got arms, it's got a head, it just needs legs at the moment, although I'm reworking the arms. But this is a teaser for the mock. It's using a lot of Keyt Orange at the moment, so get excited for that. But I use some of those pistons in there. So yeah, sometimes just someone's mock or a way that someone has used a piece, that often inspires me. But I also get inspired by just looking at images online, often just a lot of artwork, Lego artwork, real artwork, drawn stuff, painted stuff, whatever. That can often really grab me. I'm a very like visual imaged based thinker, so being able to like actually physically see something really grabs my attention, really gets my gears moving, gets me excited to build, and then I'll try and kind of recreate that image physically with bricks. Yeah, that's normally what inspires me. Knight Does Stuff asks, do you like Hero Factory? Well, yeah, I really like Hero Factory. I think it's very easy though with Hero Factory to hate on it because it is what replaced Bionicle. For ages, I didn't like it because of that, and then, I don't know, something clicked in me and I was like, you know what? This is actually cool, I'm just hating on it out of, like, principle, you know? There are times, though, that I do want, like, deeper story out of Hero Factory, because it is a little one-dimensional. I don't think that's inherently a bad thing, and I think you can dive deep on certain characters and certain events and different things, and it is rewarding. But then you compare it to the story for Bionicle, and it's very different. So, you know, there's pros and cons to Hero Factory, of course. But I think all the characters visually are very beautiful. The way that CCBS as a visual style evolved as the theme evolved is so exciting. There's a lot to love about it. It's just cool. Pangalactic Gargle Blaster 1369, they ask, what's your building process like when you start a new mock? So typically, I will, like I said before, look up images online, or maybe I'll be spurred on by a specific piece or minifigure or something. Once I find a few sort of like visual references, normally that's a mix of Lego imagery and just random artwork. From there, I'll do a bit of a sketch, just a kind of rough like visualization of what I'm thinking of. I often find that really helps to give a bit more clarity to what it is that I'm building, because I'll often have a very like hazy image in my head, and physically drawing it really helps me better understand it, I guess. From there, if I'm building a system diorama, I'll typically kind of map out the rough like dimensions of the build just to kind of see how the different aspects will interact with one another. And I find that super helpful because, like, you know, sometimes I'll be like, I'm gonna have this massive long bridge with a tower on the end, and then when I physically put it in the space I'm building in, there's not enough space to do that. So really mapping out the layout really helps me. If it's a Bionicle mock, yeah, maybe I might test a few different things. Even with system mocks, I do that as well. I'll do a little like test build and try out some different techniques in random colors just to make sure it actually works, and just to kind of wrap my head around what I'm doing. I don't always do testing in that process, I guess, but sometimes I do. And yeah, then from there I just start building. And I think the most important factor though, as I'm building, is there's a lot of trial and error. A lot of times I'll come up with a hand design or an arm design or whatever, and I'll hate it, and I'll do 5 different versions, and then I'm finally happy with it. And I do it myself, I see other people do it. It's very easy to build one version and be like, this sucks, I'm giving up, I suck. You know, and that's not the case, because all art involves trial and error to some degree. And you just kind of got to push through that. You got to get frustrated, you know? You got to not like what it is and be spurred on to build something better, you know? You don't have to get frustrated, of course, but sometimes that's definitely a part of the process, because there's definitely stuff I'm building like what I'm doing now, where I've done like 10 different versions of what I'm trying to make, and it's just not working. But then I'll go to bed and wake up, and I'm like, oh, I got it now. So, you know, there's a lot of trial and error involved, certainly. Adam Taylor 0325, they ask, when making Hero Factory and Bionicle sets, do you typically keep them as they are in the instructions, or do you make little like modifications and things? Typically I keep them exactly as they are. The main reason for that is I'll have them all like on display and stuff, and then when I want to make a YouTube video reviewing them, I just take them off the shelf and immediately start reviewing. But I don't know, I don't tend to modify it because I kind of like the history of how it looked, even if it has faults or things that I think I could improve. And if I really do want to improve it, I'll just build a new mock or revamp it or modify it as a separate thing. But I don't know, I don't tend to make too many modifications really. And finally, Joey Pterodactyl E3U, they ask, what are your 3 favorite Bionicle masks, and are there any sets or mocks out there that you just cannot find anything positive to say about? My 3 favorite masks, I really like Strax's mask with all of the ice motifs throughout it, like the ice teeth, the almost kind of hair at the top of it. It's just such a cool look. I'm also a big fan of Vakama's mask. There's something just so legendary and so heroic about how that looks. And yeah, Vakama Metru just really grabbed me as a kid, and I think a lot of that was to do with the look of his mask, so there's definitely a nostalgia factor to it, but I mean, look at it, it's cool. And then I also like Iruni's mask. There's something about the energy of those 2 spikes at the very front that's just awesome. Is there a set I can't find anything positive to say about? Yes. Well, no, to be fair. My least favorite set is Brain Attack Bulk. The biggest reason for that is this mask. Like, look at it. Can I get it to focus? There we go. Look at it. Like, what is that? The reason I don't like it is it's so stylistically different to anything from Hero Factory. It just looks wrong from an art style perspective. It's too cartoony. It's just he's got like a face and a mouth, and it's a different art style to me, so I don't like it. But that doesn't mean the set's bad. I mean, like, I like the drill weapon, that's cool. He's got nice CCBS armor and stuff, and I always think that's kind of fun when I'm talking about sets, because how lame is it to be like, oh, this set sucks? That's boring. I want to look at it and be like, well, actually, I think I can use these pieces in some interesting ways. And you know what? I do really like this chest design. I know all the heroes have it, but the way it's got this little X-beam across the hero core, focus, dang you. It just visually looks quite nice, doesn't it? So I think even in the things you don't like, you can still find some positives. And I think that's just a great mindset to have in life in general. And I don't know, I just apply that to sets. So yes, there's some negative aspects to that set, but there's also a lot of beauty to it as well. And I feel like that with every mock and every set, genuinely. I'm not just saying that because I want to make YouTube videos in a specific way. I like what LEGO makes, and I can see a lot of positives in everything they do. So I don't know, that's kind of my philosophy with a lot of stuff that I talk about on the YouTubes. Yeah, I like it. And that's it for this Q&A video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you have a question, leave it below. I'll answer it in the next video as best I can. Thanks for watching, happy building, and bye for now.